Hello, welcome. I'm Savallion, a software dev slash creative, and today we are going to set goals for quarter 4 of 2022. So in my last video, I showed off a Notion template that I've been working on that I'm going to use for quarterly planning using my system that's kind of based around the 12-week year. And today I'm going to actually use that template, show you how I am going to fill in all my goals, all my weeks, all my tasks. Then by the end of it, you'll be able to see kind of how to use it, what it looks like when it's got stuff in it instead of just like a little bit of test data. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. If you would like to use this template, you can either follow along my previous video and build it yourself in Notion. There's nothing here that you can't do on your own, but right now the template is also available on Ko-fi. It's up on the shop there. I'll leave a link. It's set to $2 or pay what you want. So the minimum is $2. Whatever works for you. If you don't want to buy it, no hard feelings. If you do decide to buy the template, I just want to say thank you so much for supporting me. Now, on to the setup here. I've got my screen share. The first thing I do before I set any goals is actually just do a lot of journaling. I do a lot of like mental work, planning work before I ever set a single goal. So the first thing I did for this quarter was I wrote down all the events, all the notes of things that I typically do this time of year, things I wanted to remember so that I could get more specific in my planning, make sure I didn't miss anything. So we've got stuff in here like NaNoWriMo. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do NaNoWriMo. I think I'm gonna do it. It's kind of outside my core like goal set, but I don't know if I can resist. I love the challenge. I don't want to break my streak. Even though it takes a lot of time, it always feels really good. So I think I'm going to do that. But first step, just make sure I've got all the big stuff written down. At this stage, I like to keep everything kind of loose and free. And then I do a free write. So this is basically just, I ask myself the question, what do I want to do in this next quarter? And then I just start writing. So some of this is kind of personal, so I think I'll blur it out. But the general idea here is I just keep going on this thread of here's what I want to do, here's why I want to do it. Here are some things I'm thinking about as I'm thinking about these goals. I've got some stuff in here about YouTube. I've got some stuff in here about the holidays, about budgeting. There's just a lot of stuff in here. It's very messy, and it's supposed to be messy at this stage. And then after I did the free write, I went back and I highlighted certain things that I felt like I needed to dig into a little bit more or that could represent a goal. And then after that, I first did just a little note for each month about what I wanted to do. So splitting things by month is not technically part of the 12-week year, but it's something that really helps me. I have a hard time thinking about 12 whole weeks at once, and I know that's kind of the point, like it's meant to be a larger chunk of time but less than a full year. I like to think about things in terms of months, and some of these goals you'll see will stretch over the entire quarter, but a lot of them are set per month. I pretty much went into each of these. I did a little tiny free write about specifically in October what I want to do. And then from there we start getting into concrete stuff. So here I felt like I had focused in on what I want to do, and then I start making bullet points for each of the goals. So I had these outside this toggle box initially, so I would just write each one, and then as I wrote more or as I thought about it more, about how much time I'd have, about what else I would be doing, I would change these. So this list I actually edited as I went. And then I moved on to sort of the final planning step before I get into the new template and the final goal setting page, which was writing each goal out in specific terms and breaking it down by week. And you can see here, some of these things are just repeated for each of the 4 weeks in October. So like I want to do some longer walks and focus a little bit more on fitness. So I've just got week 1 through 4, 3 hours of walking. So this is going to be a task that is repeated for each week. And then this is going to be the goal for the entire month. So this will be a quarterly goal and this will be a weekly task. And I've done that for all of my goals. And I'll talk about these as I fill them in for anyone who's curious about what my actual goals are. This is what I've done, and I've done this for every month, so October, November, and December. And then these ones are kind of like, I have a lot in here about, reassess this goal at the end of October because I don't know for sure if it's going to be relevant after October. So I think today I'm only going to set up my goals and tasks through October and then do the rest offline, because otherwise I think it'll be a really long video. But basically in October I want to get back into article writing as a habit and as a routine thing that I do. I want to start ramping up fitness, and then I want to prepare for NaNoWriMo, do a little bit of outlining. Everything else is sort of business as usual, except I do also want to start on a Skillshare course about 3D modeling. So that's my goals for October. November is going to be mostly NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, if I haven't mentioned that in this video yet. So everything else I have intentionally toned down is much lighter because I know I'm going to be spending a lot of time writing. And then December, you can see I've written, I want this to be a month of reset, of rest, of reflection. This is how I do every December if I can. I did want to do more YouTube videos in honor of Vlogmas. I don't want to do daily videos again. That was too much. It was a lot. I was working on videos all day, every day, but I will do, I think, probably twice a week. And this is another one I'll reassess as we go into December to see if it's still reasonable. And then I really wanted to increase my wellness goals and just sort of get a better handle on everything. And then everything else is kind of, it's sort of normal, but still a little bit light because I don't want to overwork myself going into the new year. I want to have a moment of rest. I had initially meant to put these down here. I'll just delete all these. I'm not using them. Now we've got all of these goals and weekly tasks sort of broken out already. We just have to put them in the template. So the first thing you will need to do if you have the template and you want to use it is go to the link that you should receive after purchasing. Go to the link in a web browser, and then along the top there should be a button that says duplicate. You click that and it should duplicate this into your personal Notion. So you will need to be logged in. It should prompt you to log in so it knows where to put it. And then from there what you'll see is this handy little link, how to use this template. If you don't feel like watching this video or the previous video, you can just read through this. There's a lot in here. There's a couple of little screenshots of different things to kind of, give an example of what you're supposed to do. But this is my intention for how to use this. You can, of course, tweak the template. After you duplicate it, you can tweak it to look like however you want. That is included in here. You can delete this if you don't want to look at it anymore. You can rename the page. Anything you make, any changes you make to your copy are just for you, so you can do whatever you want. Okay, let's get into the planning. Okay, now that I've got my template copied and set up, you'll see I've got some stuff in here because I used it for the previous quarter, the end of quarter 3. I just made one little week in there that I'm working on. But if you've just copied yours or just created yours, it's probably empty. But this is what it looks like. And the first thing you'll want to do is add a quarter to the quarters database. So I do that just by clicking new right here at the top. And this should use the template by default. If it doesn't bring up the template, you can fix it by going into that little drop down, the little blue drop down menu on the database and choosing the other template as default. So first I'm going to set the date. I'm going to give it a name, just 2022 Q4. And those are all the properties we need to set for this. Everything else is calculated. And then I'm just going to add a little quote and a little note about what I want to do in Q4. So these top blocks are really just for you, for what you want to see when you open up your quarters page. I'm in the middle of a reread of The Way of Kings, so I picked a Brandon Sanderson quote that I liked, and I just did a little blurb about my goals. I'll just skip right through that for the video. Okay, next up, the quarterly goals database should also be using that, the template, a quarterly goals template. now we're ready to start creating quarterly goals. So I have my goals up on a screen next to me, so you can't see that screen, but I'm not pulling this from my mind. I am using the notes that I prepared in the other Notion page. And if you ever want to open like a copy of Notion, like if you want two windows, on a Windows PC you could do Control-Shift-N, and then on Mac I think it's the is it Command-Shift-N? Maybe. Now, as I plug in these goals, everything I need is right here in this table. So first I give it a name, and I've decided to make things easier to find. I'm putting these emojis at the front as something I can search for. Maybe that's silly, but I just wanted to be able to identify which goals were for this particular quarter at a glance. So I give each goal a name, kind of describing what the goal is over that time period. So a lot of these are monthly goals within the quarter. I set the initiative and then the status I want to put to commit, because this is not just an idea. I've decided that I want to do this. And then I do the work date, which for some of these will be 1 month, for some will be the entire quarter, for some will be specific weeks. So I'm just putting that in as needed. And then the is monetized. I check this if it's a goal that is part of something that I consider like a money-making endeavor, a side hustle, a job, whatever you want to call it. And this is really just for deciding what to display on the income review page, and also just for prioritizing things. So I'm gonna make all the goals and then I'm going to fill in the tasks later. So right now my goals are, for my auto chess game, I want to do 16 hours of work on that within October, and I want to focus on polishing up the features, getting them done, and starting to implement the UI. Next, I want to do 8 hours of work in October on my game I'm working on with my partner, which includes meeting once a week and then mostly working on art. I'm going to mostly be the artist for that project and not do as much development. My next goal is to start learning music composition for video games, which I have dabbled in. I'm not very good at it, and I'm like, the fact that I'm really bad at it is making it hard for me to want to do. But I really want to just get into a low stakes, a little bit of practice every week, build up those skills, and then maybe someday I'll be able to do something that I think sounds good. My next goal is a health goal. I want to start a couple of long walks every week, so I want to do 3 hours of walking each week, split into probably 3 1-hour walks. So hopefully that'll be good. I'll be able to do some reading and just relax. I'm doing a create along, which is basically just you pick a creative project, you do something on it every week, and then you post it in Lainey Taylor's Discord. She's an author. I've supported her on Patreon, which is how I got into the Discord. I've picked digital art as my project for the create along, and it's been really motivating. I have been doing it every week for over 6 months, and so that's been really nice. She makes a chart and adds an emoji for everyone who has participated. It's really fun. I would recommend supporting her Patreon if you're into that at all, or if you just like her books. Next up, I want to write more for Medium. So Medium is kind of an article writing platform, but I've had a lot of fun writing for Medium in the past, and I want to get back into it. I've gotten a little bit lax, so I'm gonna try to do that. My next goal is to format and publish 2 new sticker designs. I'm trying to get something together that's kind of like holiday vibes before the holidays, so people can buy them and have them arrive in time to like actually use them. So I want to get started on that in October. My next goal is I want to do my gift knitting. I like to knit gifts for family. I used to go way overboard. I've been trying to really rein it in because it's rough on my arms, but I have gift knitting to do. And next up, I want to make another Skillshare course about modeling humanoid characters. So I'll have some tasks sort of breaking that down. My next goal is my YouTube goals. I want to continue to make weekly videos in October, so that's what that goal is. And then, because I have decided possibly this is a mistake and I'll regret it later, but I have decided to participate in NaNoWriMo, and so I want to spend a couple hours each week preparing, brainstorming, outlining. I have a really hard time writing anything without a plan, so I need to get that plan together. My next goal is my Twitch streaming for October, which is currently, my schedule is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, around 7 p.m. Pacific. And then I just have this catch-all goal for the entire quarter that is, I've called social media maintenance, where I'll break down, I want to post a couple times a week on my art Instagram, and then also once a week, if I can, on my main sort of game dev focused Instagram, just to keep those accounts alive. I've had a lot of trouble with Instagram in the past, honestly. We'll see how long I stick with that, but for now, I do want to try and be consistent and see if perhaps I can find people on the platform anyway. And then I have a couple of other goals that are also sort of quarter-long catch-all goals. So one is for cleaning and home. So this is, keeping the house clean, doing any repairs, hiring people for services, things like that. The next one is self and planning, which is tasks like this, doing my goal setup. If it's not part of a video, I want to make sure I'm capturing that work I need to do somewhere so I don't forget, so it's on the schedule. Anything I need just for me, like maybe appointments or anything like that, could go in the self and planning goal. And now it's time to start adding tasks. So I realized after getting into this a little bit that I do need the weeks set up before this. And also, because of a limitation in Notion, I can't create a filter on the quarter in this template because at the template's time, the quarter doesn't exist, if that makes sense. Basically, for each of these goals, before I make any tasks, I want to go into the table and set up a filter for the current quarter, because that will automatically set that value on the tasks. I won't have to go and do it manually. I did forget on a couple of them, and I had to go into the big database and update them all so that they would show up. But unfortunately, I don't know if there's a way to automate that other than to just sort of doing it this way on each individual table. So I'm not actually going to talk about each individual task. What I've done here is I've set this goal, right, for the entire month or the entire quarter, and then I just create a task on each week I'm going to work on it that encapsulates, a week's worth of work on that goal. So I tried to set things based on effort. So instead of, get this many things done, it's put this many hours of effort into this thing. And in the past I've done this, but I've been too ambitious, and I've set really high goals for how much time I want to spend. I might have done that again, but I'm trying to be reasonable. I really try. It's hard when you want to do everything to come up with goals that are not crazy, but I tried really hard to get this figured out so that it was going to be a nice, firm, but not overwhelming amount of work. But for things like my game work, where I just want to do a certain number of hours each week, all those tasks are the same. I can just duplicate. If you right click on any of these pages, you can duplicate them and then just update whatever needs to change for that other week. Speaking of weeks, I did need to I just created 4 weeks to start, because creating all 12 just seemed like a lot right now. You can use the new button in the week section, and that will also use the template. At least it should. So I've just added that little quarterly emote tag that I've picked up, and then added like week 1, week 2 as the name. I fill out the date, and then I'm not filling out anything else. As I start week 1 of quarter 4, I'll go into the planning notes. I'll reassess the tasks. So, I'm setting these up before the quarter has started, but I'll look again at the beginning of the quarter, at the beginning of the week, and I'll see, can I distribute these throughout the week in a way that makes sense to me? Is this okay? Is there anything I want to postpone or anything I want to add to this week? But right now, we just want to get them in there so that I can link the tasks in my goals to the week that they're supposed to be a part of. So in this way, I could do a lot of the work up front, where as I'm going into each week, I'm not going to be starting with this blank slate. I'm going to be starting with a set of tasks that fit all the goals that I set at the beginning of the quarter. As I go week to week, all I'll really need to do is schedule things by day and then do that little tweaking that I mentioned where I just look at my capacity, I look at what's coming up that week, and I adjust so that things are comfortable. So I'm going to speed through most of this, but for some of the goals, like my Skillshare course, I'm not just doing sort of the same thing each week, but I've actually broken that down into a series of tasks. So like I have finalize outline, write script. I actually have write script for 2 weeks because I think it'll take longer than 1 week. And then I have, start filming and editing and things like that. So when you can predict like how something's going to go, you can always put that in as tasks ahead of time. But for a lot of these, I just don't know what is going to happen. So I've got a similar thing going on for the YouTube video setup where I have ideas for some of these early videos, but all the other ones I plan as I'm approaching that week. So I don't plan YouTube videos out too far in advance, but I do plan a couple of them out in advance. So I've put a couple of ideas in here in weeks 1 and 2, and then I've just got TBD, to be decided, for all the other ones. And what I really like about this system is that it is very fluid. Like, it doesn't need to be perfect from the beginning and then it's set in stone and you just do it. You can change these things week to week if they're not working or if you made a miscalculation. And that is what makes digital planning like this really nice, is that you can erase, so to speak. You can rearrange, and you don't have to deal with the physical limitations of a paper notebook where you would have to, white things out or cover them up if they ended up being wrong. And that's really why I like to do the high-level planning in Notion, but then I do still use a journal because I like the experience of writing things by hand, seeing it on paper in front of me, being able to hold it and look at it. There's something very tangible about my task list when I write it down that I don't quite get when I'm just looking at Notion. So I feel like I get the best of both worlds by having this hybrid system. Okay, once I've got all my tasks in, I think I am gonna just go in and get this first week figured out. So I'll open up week 1 and we can see all my tasks here. I do actually have another view in the template that I added later that does each task by weekday. So this does use the work date. So if I add, and I believe I have added this to the template in the template that I have up for sale, but I didn't edit it in my personal copy of that template, so hopefully you will not need to do this setup yourself. But I can click the plus and use the tasks by weekday view from the tasks database, and it should set up something like this where you have everything separated into a board by weekday. The only problem is I had initially just done the names of the weekdays, and then I realized I couldn't sort it unless I wanted to manually rearrange them every time. So I changed it to use numbers, except my personal copy is keeping a memory of the ones without numbers. So sorry if that didn't make sense. You shouldn't have all these extra empty columns like I do. But that's why they're happening, is because Notion kind of remembers what values were for these different fields before you updated the formula. And I'm not sure if there's a way to actually remove them. But okay, I'm faced with this weekly view where everything is on Monday because that's what I scheduled it all for. And so I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to move things around by their work date. And I'm going to see if I can space my work for this first week out evenly. And the challenge comes with like tasks like my Twitch streaming, where I actually do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but I just have one task. So I'll just set that to Tuesday and try to remember that I also have it on Wednesday and Thursday. In an ideal world, I've got most of my tasks spread out somewhat evenly Monday through Saturday, and then my Sunday is for resting. That's how I like to do things. It doesn't always work out that way, especially if I procrastinate, but that's what I'm looking for here. What I would really love from Notion, honestly, is a view like this with the bigger cards and the different columns, but sort of combined with the timeline view, because the timeline view itself, I find everything is much too small. It's all horizontal, and like the information is difficult to read. If instead it was these cards, but they just stretched over a couple days, but everything was much bigger, I would like that. If you're listening, Notion. Okay, I think I've got something resembling a reasonable layout here. You can see all of my initiatives. I'm spreading those out as well. I've got all my individual Instagram posts scheduled, so I know when I need to do those. And this should be good. I should be able to look at this at the beginning of the day, write down my tasks, and as I work on them, I can update progress, I can update status, I can add notes, and this whole system should just sort of work. That's the idea. And that's really all you need to set up this template. That was probably a pretty long video, as I do, but hopefully it was informative. Hopefully you got a nice look into what I'm going to be working on this next quarter. I'm pretty excited for the different things I'm going to be doing. That's going to be it for this video. Let me know if you have any questions about either what I'm working on or how to use this template. I would be happy to answer them as best I can. Don't forget to subscribe if you would like to do that, and I will be back soon with another video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye 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 bye.